Welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. The crossroads where culture, lifestyle, and community meet. All hosted by the legendary New York radio TV personality and proud Harlem American, G. Keith Alexander.
Well, thank you so very, very much for joining us today. This is a wonderful, wonderful episode today we're going to have with this wonderful friend of mine. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Alyson Williams. She's a longtime R&B soul singer, entrepreneur, and radio personality. Alyson unveils her latest release, the single Summer Nights in Harlem this week. Now, the veteran singer brings a jazzy, mature, grown folks vibe to Summer Nights in Harlem, as well as sweet sultriness to the accompanying flip side. The ballad is called The Romance of You. Now, this woman, my friend, Alyson, she's also a radio personality. And we're going to talk about that as well. She's on the WHCR FM radio station here in New York. And her show is called Love Notes with Alyson Williams in the Chill Zone. Alyson, welcome to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. That's me, by the way. I want to thank you so much for taking the time. How are you?
Thank you, G. Keith. I'm doing well, and I'm blessed to say that because right now we're dealing with so many different things, and it just feels good to be able to feel good. And I got very excited when I saw my list of interviews. Shout out to Angelo Ellerby and Kevin Goins for, helping me on this journey. And when I saw your name, I got real excited because I know you personally and we have a history. And I was glad. And you had been telling me so much about Harlem America, and I was very excited to see that, it was up and running and that I could be a part of it.
Well, it's so nice of you to say. I'm really happy to have you here today. There's so much I want to talk to you about because, even though we've known each other for years, and I even remember sitting down with you to talk about a production that you wanted to do for women, that you wanted to have female artists produced and have shows around the country. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Most people know you for Yes We Can, Make You Mine Tonight, Sleep Talk, My Love Is So Raw, I Need Your Love, Just Call My Name, I Second That Emotion, Not on the Outside, She's Not Your Fool, Can't Have My Man, Just My Luck, Everybody Knew But Me. Wow, those are a lot of songs. And I want to ask you, how did it all begin for you? Where did it start?
Well, I guess the recording part of it came a little later, but I was raised in a musical household. My father was a jazz trumpet player, and he had a 21-piece swing band. So I came up on jazz and swing music, whereas a lot of my counterparts or colleagues rather came up in the church. You hear singers say, "Oh, I was in church," and I didn't. That wasn't it. I came up on the bandstand. I came up, in the rehearsal halls and out on the gigs. And he had great players in his band that would go out and play with the Duke Ellington Orchestra and play with the Count Basie Orchestra. And they always knew they had a chair when they came back home. And it was an incredible band with incredible players. And that's what I grew up, hearing and the music that I loved and played. And I would go through my parents' record collection and listen to Dakota Staten and Billy Eckstine and Joe Williams and Carmen McRae, Nancy Wilson. And there was other music being played, but I really didn't discover like a R&B voice in my soul until much later, in like grade school almost, and gospel even later than that. And,
Really?
To really know it and be able to say, oh, that's such and such, and recognize their voices and their stylings and stuff like that. So I was in college. I had been working. I had been doing local gigs. It was a group called New Rose. It was myself, Fran J, Lisa Fisher. We had a group together, and we were gigging around and doing the little chitlin circuit and working uptown in Harlem and every place. And I ran into Curtis Blow one day. And Curtis and I got to talking, and we realized we had some things in common. And he did not realize that he had a grown and sexy audience that got his music and really dug him. So I began to take Curtis to the Cellar and McKell's and Sweetwater.
Yeah,
right. And he would take me to the Disco Fever. And that led to us going into the studio, and I became his hook girl. So I was the hook girl and his contractor, and songs like "They're Playing Basketball," all of that.
That was you?
Yes, I'm basketball. I'm If
Really?
I Rule the World. I'm all of that.
Wow.
I'm AJ Scratch. I'm Fat Boys. I'm Fat Boys. I'm back. Are back. I'm rapping Rodney Dangerfield. I'm all of that.
Wow.
All of that early rap music that laid the foundation and changed the game. I'm singing the hooks on those songs.
I had no idea, Alyson.
Mostly myself and Audrey Wheeler. I know, and you've known me forever, but
Sure.
that's how it started. And then I ended up being with the group High Fashion, which was myself, myself, Melissa Morgan, and a brother out of Detroit named Eric McClintock. And that was the group on Capitol. Right around then was that's when Curtis had introduced me to Russell Simmons, and Russell was managing Curtis. So, like I said, it was just about a handful of us: Larry Smith, Russell Simmons, Curtis, myself, and we were making records and coming out of the studio and taking the test press down to the Diplomat Hotel where the DJ would be doing a big party, and we'd throw it on, and if it went, it went. You know what I mean? That's how we did it. It was very grassroots, kind of thing that we were doing. And then after I got with High Fashion, that led me to start working with people like Melba Moore and producers like Kashif and Paul Lawrence and Mtume and Reggie. And I was doing things with Evelyn Champagne King, singing background for her, and Bobby Brown.
I didn't know that.
All of this background work. I was interning for the Commodores with Benny Ashburn.
Benny was a good guy.
Oh, man, he's the best. And
Yeah.
I'd say about 2 weeks prior to his passing, he had discovered what I really did. It was like the girl who was answering his phones could really sing. And he was taking over my management, and then that just never happened. It was a real dark time. But
yeah, I
came through it. I came through it and continued to thrive, doing like I said, the studio stuff and the live stuff. There were so many clubs back in the day that you could work. You could do like 5 and 6 track dates a night, just in New York alone.
That's right.
And we were working really good. And that's when Russell was developing the label. I said, I need to be on Capitol for a minute, but I'm coming right back. And he said, do what you got to do. I'm glad I did it. The High Fashion thing was about 2 years in its run. And then by that time, it was 1986 and 85, I think, 86. At any rate, Russell put me over on profile for the Yes We Can record, just to have a single and have some buzz, which was a really good thing. Worked with Jelly Bean Benitez and a lot of good
remember
people.
him.
Yeah. And then it was time to be on Def Jam. Orange Juice Jones, Chuck Stanley, and Tayshaun were my 3 male counterparts. And they had been signed prior to me in terms of who was going to go into the studio and get their stuff started. And they had started. So I was kind of sitting around and trying to find things to do, chomping at the bit, as it were, to get into the studio. And it finally happened. While I was waiting, I made myself a road manager for Orange Juice Jones, who had a runaway hit.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was like,
oh, yeah. What was the name of his hit?
The Rain.
That's right.
I saw you walking in the rain.
That's right.
And let me just understand, these kids had no clue. I've been with Dance Theater of Harlem by this time. I had a career as a dancer. I've been doing theater. So I had a different kind of, I brought something else to the table in terms of how to develop an artist and what would be expected of you once you have this notoriety and his hit record and how you go about doing what you need to do. And my concern was that they were going to rip their tail so hard that by the time I came out of the gate, no one would want to deal with the drama, because they had already said at one point, oh, rap is going away, you know. Oh, well, they were wrong about that. Not only did it stick around, but it shifted the culture. And
Well,
so now Russell wanted to do the R&B thing, and they were looking at him like, "Ah, man, come on, you did the rap. What do you know about R&B?" But he had artists that delivered, so they had to take him seriously. But we had no one at the label who understood the R&B realm. We had rappers who had their cousin and they Pookie out on the road. Pookie's on probation. Why is Pookie on the road with you? You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of, I didn't want that. I wanted to kind of pave the way for what was coming for myself and the other R&B artists that we had. So I did that.
Well, okay. Well, two things. One of which is they came to me. I was a DJ at Disco 92 WKTU.
WKTU.
Yeah, and Fox TV came to me and they wanted to interview me about what I thought about rap music, if I thought it was going to be around for a while. And I told the guy, I said, you know, it's just a fad. Because I had been, because I had come from R&B radio and jazz radio, and that's pretty much what I knew. And I said, it's just a fad. It won't be around long. Well, little did I know, now it has become mainstream, So anyway, the other thing is that now I know why you are called the First Lady of Def Jam, because of your history of being were you the first R&B singer that they had?
I was their first R&B singer. I was their first female R&B singer. Like I said, my other counterparts were Orange Juice Jones, Tayshaun, and Chuck Stanley, but they didn't have a female vocalist, and I was she. And we were there from the very beginning. We chose the colors for everything. For the company and the logo and how it was going to look with the turntable on the disc. We laid the cornerstones. Do you know what I'm saying? Before there was a brick and mortar building, we were in the trenches making Def Jam stand up straight. And so.
Tell me an interesting story from that time, something that your audience would like to know about you.
Oh, there are so many. Good gravy. Where do we start? Interesting story. It's too. I wouldn't know where to start. There are so many stories. I can tell you this. Russell believed in me so much that we would go out, and he would take me places. And his thing was, he didn't really know, how am I going to promote this singer? What do I really know about promoting a singer? And Alyson's been doing her thing. She works in clubs. She's done theater. So we would go out, and Russell would take me in the middle of the floor. It could be a restaurant or a party or wherever, and he'd hold my hand up in the sky like I was a prize fighter. And he's like, "This is the next thing. You got to hear her." And then proceed to go get a chair or something, and I would stand up on a chair and maybe sing happy birthday to somebody that needed to be sung to in the middle of wherever it was. He just shut the whole thing down. Alyson Williams, y'all need to, and that was it. I always,
wow.
I was his champion. I was his heavyweight, and that's how we used to go about it.
Well, when we come back, because we're going to take a short break. But when we come back, I want to hear how you hooked up with Maurice Lynch and how all of this wonderful music has come about. But we've got about a minute, and I just want to let folks know that they can find What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander on Apple Podcast, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, just to name a few. So you guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be right back with the wonderful, fantastic, beautiful, talented, my friend, Alyson Williams. Don't go away.
Tune in every Friday to get your weekend kickoff early. Join the legendary G. Keith Alexander for What's Hot Harlem America. The flagship show of the new Harlem America Digital Network has something for everyone. From the latest in entertainment to empowerment, health and wellness, and more, we'll bring you a variety of fresh viewpoints, voices, and ideas. What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander can be heard every Friday at 1 p.m. in New York and 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I want to say thank you very much to all the folks around the country who are listening, but also we find that our analytics show that we've got people in Ireland, China, Russia, Canada, the Netherlands, France, and Germany listening to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. So I want to say thank you all very, very much. And please share the information, tell a friend, okay? So, Alyson, now you are, let's see, you've released Summer Nights in Harlem, and you've got this wonderful, wonderful producer and writer. His name is Maurice Lynch. How did this marriage come about?
To tell you the truth, it's the funniest thing, G. Keith. I was performing at one of my local gigs in New York. You know, you always have to keep a local going. Mm-hmm. And in New York, you can do that. So I'm working at this club. This gentleman comes in and he comes to me in a break and he says, "You know my cousin, Mike Lynch, he's the stage manager." And I said, "Yeah, I've worked with several plays with Mike across the country for years." He says, "Well, I have some music that I'm about to produce for a show. I have a gospel review, and all my singers are great, but I'm about to do a Harlem Renaissance review. And my cousin said if I need somebody that sings jazz, I need to find Alyson Williams. So I came to find you." And I said, "Okay." So he lets me hear the music, and I fell in love with these two songs. Actually, Summer Nights came first. And I said, "Okay, listen, I'd love to do your review. I'd love to be in the show. I'd love to sing the songs. Let's do it. But you must allow me to record these songs as my own. I want them to have another life on another platform as my next release. I've been looking to go back to my jazz roots, and this is the music I want to go with." And so we came to an agreement. And I came in as a co-producer. He handled the music and the writing of the songs as they are. And I brought the personnel. So I was able to call on, I realized that jazz has its way. Mm-hmm. And I knew that they would be looking at, me having other hits in the charts on the R&B side wasn't going to be a factor. Mm-hmm. I needed to prove myself on a couple other levels. So I called Christian McBride and Christian Sands, wow, Ulysses Owens, Rod Blake, Kirk Whalum, Ray Chu, Solomon Hicks, Greg Sneed, some great singers, Dawn Tallman and Ty Stevens. And
these are all top shelf people.
All of them. They build the shelves. These are the people that build the shelves.
In fact, Ray Chu is the musical director for Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. And at the Apollo Theater. He's been the mm-hmm. musical director there. Because I've worked with him many times there and at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing it all. I think he's also behind that show, I Can See Your Voice.
Oh, really?
There's a spinoff of The Masked Singer, and I think he's doing that too. He's doing the most, and he's got an incredible mentorship program for young people called Power to Inspire.
That's
and
right.
So
he and Vivian.
He and Viv, the power couple, Viv and Ray. So Ray did all those orchestrations that you hear on the song, all those lush strings and horn parts.
Beautiful.
He did all of that and a really great solo on the Romance of You. And we've known each other since forever. We're family. He's been my musical director in the early years, when I first was going out touring with the first album and what have you on Def Jam. So, when I went to him and told him what I wanted, I wanted to have that feel, have that sound that resonates. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And he gave it to me. So that's how I got the music, and like I said, we worked on it and took our time to do it. As an independent, when you don't have a label, you have to take it in bits and pieces to get to get everything, get it right. So we thought we'd like I was telling you before we came onto the air, we thought we'd release in August because we really wanted to get the summer nights in Harlem, and we were going to have a Harlem venue and have a great night and a big party, and then COVID said, nope, not going to happen like that. But you can't steal our joy or our time or our music, so here we are.
Well,
Just in time for the holidays.
Just in time for the holidays. So how can people find Summer Nights in Harlem?
Summer Nights in Harlem and The Romance of You are available on all the music platforms, Amazon, Spotify, all the streaming and download platforms. And it's been devastating what the pandemic has done to artists. Because we have no way to perform, with the exception of virtually. So, all the things that you can do to support live music and buy the music and so on and so forth, we'd appreciate it. We appreciate it. So please go out and get the music and make a perfect stocking stuffer.
Now, you've done a little more with Maurice Lynch. You guys have gone on tour. You guys even performed in Russia.
I was just about to say, when you were saying that, you have listeners, hello to the listeners in Russia, because we went over and did wonderful music halls over there. They received us so well with the Harlem musical review. It was great, really great.
I have seen it. I have a copy of the promo for it, and I told Maurice, that I'm going to put it on Harlem America's website at some point. We're going to have it up there so people can just kind of get a flavor of what you guys do. I mean, it's really a classy show, and the costuming is great. Excuse me, got a little frog in my throat. And so I was really happy to see that you and Maurice and I forget who some of the other folks that
Dawn Tallman, like I said, we keep Dawn everywhere. Dawn Tallman and Maurice and myself and AJ Swindell, who also helped produce the CD. He was our musical accompanist, and and thank you. Let me just say that I know Maurice would want to thank you once again. You talked about the promo in the trailer. G. Keith, you did a wonderful job doing our voiceover for that. So when the people come to Harlem America and see the trailer, they'll be listening to that golden throat of yours.
Well, thank you very, very much. Thank you. So what else is on the horizon for you?
Oh, it's really, like I said, it just feels good to be able to feel good, because we've gone through so much. We're still going through a turbulent time. It's just that I think to me, it feels like we've been going through it so long till now it's become a little less. No, it's as stressful as it ever was, but we're dealing with it differently now, because this is what it is. And we've come to terms with this is what it is. We have to stop figuring. We have to stop. I guess feeling like, oh my God, to, oh, come on now, let's get through it. Do you know what I'm saying? We know what to do. We know how to follow the protocols. We know what to do. So, I'm glad to have happy stories or happy things happening. I'm celebrating 30 years of Just Call My Name.
Wow,
when December 31st comes, that will be we'll have just released 30 years ago. Who knows where the time went?
Was that your biggest hit?
Just Call My Name, pretty much so. Yeah, it was the one that went furthest on the charts. I think it was number 3 on Billboard, 67 weeks on the top 100. So that was the biggest song. But all of, we had 5 top 5 songs, 4 songs in the top 5 for the first album, and 5 songs in the top 10 or something like that for the second. It was good. So 30 years of Just Call My Name, 5 years on the air as a radio personality for WHCR, and I've just been inducted into the Soul Music Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yeah, that happened 2 days ago.
Wait a minute. You're in the Soul Music Hall of Fame? That's beautiful.
Yes. Thank
Congratulations.
you. And thank you to David Nathan for nominating me.
Oh, David's a
Um,
great guy.
yeah, so that's his groove. And he had me in a category for Best Female. And I was up against Stacey Lattisaw and Jennifer Holliday.
Really.
They voted and I won.
Funny you should mention Stacey Lattisaw because I just posted a photo of myself, Stacey Lattisaw, and Natalie uh, Dexter, and it's on Facebook. We just posted it about 2 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're in the universe. The universe, that's how the universe does.
Well, that's fantastic. So now we're going to talk about how your radio career got started, because now you crossed over into my bailiwick.
I know.
And yeah, tell me, how did that come about?
Well, how can I put it? When I started, I always wanted to do communications. I went to school on a dance scholarship. I went to Marymount Manhattan College, and they had communications, but they had communications journalism. And Deke, when you're young, you don't realize you might not get exactly what you think you're going to get. And so I was a little dismayed with the journalism because it sounded like hard work. And it didn't have anything to do with radio or television and what I envisioned communications was going to be. But I followed that track for a minute. I had a wonderful professor who understood that I was having problems, with the whole thing of communications journalism, and he would let me come to class. Well, when I would come to class, the thing he said, I know I got to do something to keep you engaged. So I would do my assignments. At the end of every class, he would turn off the lights and put up the shades, and I would sing to the class.
Oh, really?
And they would do requests, and that we'd do that for 20 minutes or something. So he just needed to make sure I got in, and the dance situation was going good until the only African American instructor there decided that she wanted to go back on the road with Alvin Ailey, and so therefore I was devastated.
Really?
So I left there, and I went to City College, and that's where I finished out. But the radio thing kept coming back because when they would send me out, you always have to go do press, just like I'm doing now with the radio stations. And when I was doing the plays, we always had to get into town on Monday and go to radio so that everybody in the city would know that we were there and going to do the play. I would not allow them to just let me sit here and answer questions. I had to read some copy. I wanted to do the weather. I wanted to read a public service announcement. And it turned into this thing where, especially with the plays, we would come in on Monday, and by midweek, the program director would be calling me saying, "Are you still in town? Or do you have any time? Can you get up and do the early?" I've subbed for Tom Joyner. I've subbed for Doug Banks.
Really?
I've worked with Kathy Hughes and some of her on-air personalities in D.C. And I had a little gig out in L.A. for a minute at a station. So I always wanted to keep it going. Because I just felt that it was something I liked. I liked this thing that it is. It's something about it's because this is what you do and you're a veteran of it. I was just happy to be able to have those opportunities. And then I guess in 2016, Jean Parnell, my auntie Jean, who we love.
She's wonderful.
She's incredible, and she came to me and she says, "Alyson, do you think you'd like to have your own show?" And I said, "Would I?" And she said, "Well, give me a day or two. I got to check into something because I think there's some slots they're trying to fill up at WHCR." And I had thought about HCR in the past, but I didn't know what the protocol was to get involved. And I guess I just didn't. I didn't follow up on it. It was something in the back of my mind. And then I met with Angela Harden. A shout out to the HCR family. And she said, "Alyson, we'd love to have you here. And this is what we can offer, and this is what you can do." And I was like, for real? And that's how it started back in 2015. My first guest was Freddie Jackson, and we've been going ever since.
Fantastic. So you've had Freddie Jackson, who's a great guy. Who else?
I've had Freddie Jackson. I've had Mary Wilson. I've had Valerie Simpson. I've had Nancy Wilson. I've had Shaka Khan. I've had Regina Bell. I've had Manhattan Transfer. I've had my cousin, who was the first African American French hornist signed to the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and he had written a book when he retired a couple of years back called The Black Horn. So I've had everything from Curtis Blow, rapper, to people musicians from a philharmonic orchestra. I've had political figures. I've had athletes, civic, community activists, and dietitians and health gurus, and just up and coming artists as well as the veterans. So as you know, when you have that opportunity, that platform, that microphone, it allows you to be able to do a host of things. And to shine a light and give information and start conversations. And I love it.
Well, not only that, but you also are helping people to move their projects forward. So it's a wonderful platform to have. I noticed that last night you were hosting Nick and Val's Sugar Bar last night. How did that go?
That went wonderful. That's one of the things, another success story out of 2020. All of our gigs were canceled. The Sugar Bar, Valerie Simpson, in her wonderful fabulousness, decided that, the Sugar Bar is something we've been doing for over 20 years on a Thursday night. And we don't know where the time went. It's just one day we looked up and we had a cake, and it was like, we've been doing it a long time.
It's a wonderful, intimate spot, and I love the food.
My God.
The food is great.
You never know who's going to come.
You never know, especially on Thursday nights when you have the mic night, open mic. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And the thing is that we realized, Valerie realized that in the height of COVID, we needed the music. We needed something that we could hold on to, something familiar that we could wrap ourselves in. So she brought it back on the virtual platform, and we do it across Zoom, and it's seen live on Facebook Live every Thursday at 8:00. And she has a few of us that were hosts when we were in the club, in olden days of gone by. In real time. She's brought us back, and that's a paid gig. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, it is?
Yes. I mean, for the host.
Oh, okay.
The open mic is as it was, with the exception of having to pay a cover charge. You don't pay to get in. But yeah, that's a paid gig, and one of the few. The only other thing that came back for me was Jazzmobile. For years, I've been hosting their Great Jazz on the Great Hill, which is a big summer concert they do. And we were able to get a special ordinance from the city of New York to go into the park and film it.
With Robin Bell.
With Robin Bell, yes. Robin Bell Stevens. And we went in and we filmed it without an audience. And so that was another, income stream that came back. I also did something wonderful with the Queens Public Library in a virtual setting through a Facebook Live. So, it's been difficult trying to figure out ways to make it happen. But what we know is that it can happen, and it must happen. It must happen. Without
a doubt. And Ray Chu and his lovely wife, Vivian, they were doing something to support artists as well. They had a fundraiser at, I believe it was a couple of months ago, to help support artists who couldn't make a living.
They set up something that was specifically for the working musicians that gig night after night in clubs and so on and so forth. And they went through the local 802 platform and the AF of M. I sit on a foundation chair for I Love My Artist Foundation. And if people want to look that up, they can go to I Love My Artist Foundation. It's set up by artists, for artists. We try to provide, work and what have you. But what we realized was that there's a lot of artists out here who are good at being professional artists and musicians, but they're not good at the other stuff like balancing your checkbook or making sure you got good health insurance or knowing where to go for good legal advice. So we have people on our board that and these are their their walks of life, and so they are able to offer these services at little and sometimes no cost. And we're doing master classes and everything across the board.
We have to take a break now, and I just want to get this in real quick. Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce continues to work tirelessly through the pandemic experience in concert with our medical, education, business, banking, elected officials, nonprofits, and individual partners to provide much needed services. To support those most severely impacted by the pandemic, social inequalities, systemic racism, and economic challenges, the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce has created a GoFundMe campaign, Support Harlem Now, assisting our senior citizens, children, students, small businesses, food banks, the homeless, arts and culture, not-for-profits, and many families in need. For more information, contact greaterharlemchamber.com, greaterharlemchamber.com. And we'll be right back with my friend, Alyson Williams. Don't go away.
Tune in every Friday to get your weekend kickoff early. Join the legendary G. Keith Alexander for What's Hot Harlem America. The flagship show of the new Harlem America Digital Network has something for everyone. From the latest in entertainment to empowerment, health and wellness, and more, we'll bring you a variety of fresh viewpoints, voices, and ideas. What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander can be heard every Friday at 1 p.m. in New York and 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Thank you for joining us. Again, we're here with the lovely Alyson Williams. Alyson, you are from Harlem, actually, right?
Born and raised.
And tell me about some of your experiences here in Harlem.
You remember the song Native New Yorker?
Yes.
That's how it feels like to me. Jumping in and out of cabs, uptown, downtown, all around, no matter where you went, you're from Harlem, no matter what borough you go to, you got a special kind of thing going on, a vibe that people, kind of treat you a certain kind of way because you're from Harlem. I grew up, like I said, going on the gigs with my dad, and they were all over the place, but many of them were in Harlem when we had all those venues that you could go to and see live music. I can remember going to Smalls and going to the Cotton Club when they really were rolling, the Savoy Manor Ballroom, the Renaissance Ballroom. They had all kinds, like I said, clubs. They had Jock's Place, the Mark IV, the Blue Book, Saint Nick Pub. We had after-hour spots that were just as fly as the regular club, and they were full. You know what I'm saying? Full to capacity at 5 a.m. So I heard about it.
You heard about it, huh?
I heard about it.
So you actually saw Harlem and experienced Harlem in its heyday, when all the clubs were jumping and popping, and your dad, he was a trumpeter, band leader,
yes.
trumpeter, Bobby Booker.
Bobby Booker. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because as much as all that was going on, Harlem had also fallen into a place where it was dilapidated in terms of what, the infrastructure of it. You know what I mean? They weren't paying attention to Harlem, and the buildings were run down, and we had dope fiends, you know what I'm saying? And it was visible. You know what I mean? I remember even when I was going to school, we would stand on the corner, sometimes get off the bus, and just see if one was going to topple over. That was a joke to us, We stop at the candy store on your way home from school before you depart from your friends. Let's watch this man and see if he'll just. And things like that, we ran in our little packs and went to the movies. And I remember, running up. I lived right at 110th Street, 111th Street, right there at Central Park West. So I learned to swim in that pool. I learned to skate in that rink. You know what I mean? So they were, it was deep. It was an experience to see it all now come to what Harlem is now. And it makes me feel like I've turned into my mother, because I find myself going, oh, I remember when so-and-so was there. Oh, and I remember that used to be such and such. And yet right on that corner was, so you know all of this history because you saw it change before your eyes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, in all fairness to Harlem now, Harlem has become the place to be.
Oh, absolutely.
And it has, we've got all these high-rise buildings coming up. We've got all of the resources coming into Harlem. We've got the outdoor restaurants and cafes, and it has become a place that folks from downtown are moving uptown.
Well, and that happens. I mean, before Harlem was Harlem for black people, it was white people, and then we took it, and then they started coming back, because it was where all the great music was. It was where the literary people were coming from. It was, it goes around like that. So now you're seeing a resurgence in that. I remember watching for a long time. I would see people coming. They were buying up these brownstones for little or nothing, and they were coming and checking on their contractors and walking around in kente cloth shawls on their bicycles and pushing color. I'm like, where y'all coming from? And then Starbucks came in, and we knew it was done. So I just think I think we've got a lot of the high rises and a lot of, it's really glitzy and what have you, but we lost the venues now. We don't have the clubs. We do have some good restaurants and cafes, like you said, but in terms of real, true, what a nightclub is, not there.
Well, the closest thing probably would be Minton's.
Minton's, which is still where it's always been. Yes, right. Minton's. And in the downstairs room, Ginny's over there at the Red Rooster. They have a nice thing. Showman's. I don't know what the fate of Showman's is going to be now. But
years ago, I used to go to Showman's.
And it wasn't even where it is now. Remember, Showman's moved about 3 times.
Yeah, yes, it has.
Because it used to be on the same block as the Apollo.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yes.
Wow.
So when's the last time you've been to the Apollo?
The last time I was at the Apollo was to see Miss Nikki Giovanni. Dr. Nikki Giovanni and Dr. Janetta Coles were having a seminar. And they were talking about all the things that are relevant in culture, in politics, in education. And I was just there to see those women who are mentors of mine. And it was just that's the last time I was there. So that had to have been it was last year, the 19th, in 2019. You have to know, I injured myself. I ruptured my quadricep muscle on January 3rd of 2020. So that's when my lockdown started. I hadn't been outside except to go have my surgery, which didn't happen until the end of January. And by the time I was able to hobble on a crutch to get to a stage and sit on a stool and sing a song, it was probably Valentine's weekend. And I was with Nat Adderley Jr. We were at Minton's. I had one gig with Mickey Howard, flew to Chicago, came back, and 2 weeks later, they shut the whole city down.
Yeah.
So I've been inside all of that time. I came out for Valentine's weekend, and that was all I had. And then I never came out again. So anything you asked me about when's the last time I did anything, it happened in 2019.
Well, that's pretty much for all of us, because the Apollo, talking about the Apollo, has been closed because of the pandemic. But they've been doing virtual. They've had virtual shows and trying to keep it going and keeping the fundraising going as well. So now, out of all of the artists that you told me that you've worked with thus far, are there any artists that you'd like to work with now? We can put that buzz out there. So
absolutely. I would like to collaborate with. I like the young lady Her. I like her, and I like her what she's doing, and just her presentation. I'm digging that. I want to do something with Bruno Mars. I want to do something in my jazz genre with Harry Connick, and I gotta get to Tony Bennett. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
Really, I gotta get to Tony Bennett. I love what Layla Hathaway's been doing. I love what Lettucey's been doing. So you know what I'm saying? They're my little sisters, and I would love to be able to bring something to the table. It's not like there's not a lot of good music out there. It's a lot of good music out there. It's just, can you get it played? Can you hear it? You know what I mean? And the way we consume music now is so different. It's got a pro and con. It can come right to you because it's there at your fingertips. But the way radio is now, you don't get the connection like you used to get. You know what I'm saying? I could keep up with what was happening through radio because radio was playing what was happening. Now I can't even find radio a lot. You know what I mean? The connection is not always there. So that's why even having my own show, I try to keep up with what's going on, so that I can keep good music out there, you know. And
so you'll be playing summer nights on your show?
I shall be playing summer nights in Harlem. we start the show with Just Call My Name, so you know we're gonna play summer nights in Harlem. I want to work with Gregory Porter too. Tell him I said, hey Gregory, wherever you are. Gregory and I always run into each other in the airport. And 2 years ago, I hosted a jazz festival down in Mexico, and he was on the show, and I got a chance to sing Happy Birthday to him. He's such a sweetheart. Yeah, I really want to sing with him.
Nice.
Yeah.
So your show, let folks know what time and what day you're on.
Oh, Tuesday nights from 8 to 10, WHCR, Harlem Community Radio. That's the voice of Harlem, 90.3 FM. And that's when you find me, 8 to 10 on a Tuesday.
Well, there's got to be a place for you on one of these TV shows where you're hosting some sort of musical genre, you know, and maybe there could be something where, well, we'll have to figure it out for you. Maybe we'll talk about it.
We got to talk behind the scenes. I have a couple of things brewing around in this little laboratory I call a brain. And I've got, you know, the thing is so funny. Now, Summer Nights in Harlem clearly is steeped in tradition of Straight Ahead, the Great American Songbook. On their original songs, I call them new school standards. And but I have some smooth jazz coming with Najee, so that's coming at the top of the year. And I have a follow-up that I did with the producer named Chris Big Dog Davis. We've covered the iconic "What You Won't Do for Love." Wow. And the reason I bring that up is because on November 23rd, myself and Nat Adderley Jr. as my MD, people would know that Adderley name as legacy, and Nat was Luther Vandross's musical director, arranger, and co-writing partner for everything you've ever heard from Luther. So I'm working with him, and I have a show called Old Friend. Old friend Alyson Williams sings tribute to the legendary Phyllis Hyman. So, you know, Phyllis was an incredible vocalist and a good friend of mine. And we will be we'll be presenting a platform on the National Arts Club is presenting Old Friend on their virtual platform on November 23rd at 7:00.
You know, that's amazing that you mentioned Phyllis Hyman, because earlier today, when I was thinking of you, Phyllis Hyman came to mind, and I thought, well, you know, maybe I should ask her if she ever worked with or knew Phyllis Hyman. And I forgot to do that, and now you bring it up. She was great. Phyllis and we were neighbors. She lived in my building, and I just loved her. She was such a great vocalist.
She was really a sister to me. There was a play in 1994. Yep. No, 96, called Thank God the Beat Goes On. And it was the story of the Whispers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're at that point 40 years in the industry, and told through the eyes of, let's say, the custodian for the Apollo. And so they told the story leading up to they were coming to be honored at the Apollo. And of course, that night, Phyllis decided she'd had enough and it was done. But they had a young set of twins in the show, and open. So I played Phyllis in the show. This was 1 year.
You did.
Almost 1 year to the month of her death. They called me and said, we want you to come and want you to play Phyllis. So we did that for about 2 years, and people kept saying, we want the Phyllis, when you're going to do the Phyllis show again? I said, it wasn't the Phyllis show, it was the Whisper show, but it prompted me to put together a one-woman show about her and her music and her journey from Pittsburgh to her, to her end. This is the 25th year anniversary of her transition. So
it's been that long. Wow.
Yeah. I was talking to my friend Jackie Jeffries from Adelco, and, telling us that we need to, I need to put that back up. Just before COVID, I had a conversation with some people over at, as a matter of fact, Gregory Schnick over at Aaron Davis Hall, and they wanted to look into some of the productions that I have coming through AWP, which is my company. And we were going to start with Phyllis. But then COVID came, and so she said, we got to figure out something to do. I said, well, maybe I can get with Nat, and we can just do a duet kind of thing, a duo, just he and piano and myself, and we'll do it in an unplugged setting, and it'll be, for July, her birthday, and, we can do that. Well, we ended up filming it on her birthday, and we thought we would get it out during the summer. And it didn't. We're supposed to do something with Harlem Week, but it's difficult, to do things sometime because we're having to figure out a whole new way to do it. So anyway,
exactly.
We had it
Alyson,
in the can.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time.
So anyway, just everybody look for these things.
Yes, and thank you so very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to What's Hot Harlem America with G. Keith Alexander. And I love you and thank you, and have a great day and a better one tomorrow. And don't judge your brother or sister too harshly until you walked a mile in his or her shoes. And come back next Friday, please. Bye-bye.
It's What's Hot.